Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. On this podcast, I share my journey as a developing psychic medium, as a Reiki master teacher, as an Akashic record practitioner, and anything else that's thrown my way. Hello, Middlers. Welcome to the Medium in the Middle podcast. I'm your host. My name is Stephanie, the Medium in the Middle. Welcome to episode 131. And on this week's podcast, I have a business podcast for you. So last week, I woke up to a Facebook reminder that it was my 2-year business anniversary, which is, I think, just the pinnacle of entrepreneurship, not even remembering your own anniversary. So I know a lot of you have been here from the start since episode 1, and some of you are new listeners. Maybe you just are listening to the newer episodes and you haven't listened to my story from the very start. So I will quickly tell you that I started the podcast 3 years ago in August, and after about a year, I had people asking me for services constantly, and I didn't have anywhere to host them. I didn't have anything. I had in-person Reiki, but that was about it. And then the pandemic happened and I lost my job. And I was waking up constantly with DMs, between like 4 and 10 a day, asking me for distance Reiki. And I all of a sudden had a bunch of time where I could make my own website. So I decided that since I was laid off from my job, sitting in my room by myself in the middle of like winter, that I would start to work on my website. So this was in March. I started to work on it in March 2020, and then I didn't release the website until June, so it took me a very long time. I'm a perfectionist. I learned a lot of things, which I'm going to talk about in this podcast episode. From March to June, I was preparing the website, getting it all going, trying to teach myself the back end, trying to find a booking system, trying to do all of the things you need to do to launch, and I'm going to talk about some of them today. So I guess you could say I have a lot of business anniversaries, but the launch of themediuminthemiddle.com I found was like the launch of my business. Like that is the day. I still have the day when I opened up my in-person space in Banff, my own space, because I was subleasing before that. So that's a day that like I do celebrate just kind of with myself, like woohoo. But the launch of the .com is, it's a big deal. So for this episode, I wanted to do 22 things I learned over the past, I want to say it's more than 2 years in business because business starts before you open your doors. But what I've learned. And I also wanted to answer some of the questions that I got on Instagram because I put it out there, what business questions do you have for me? And I got a few good ones. So I will also be answering those. But this is going to be great if you have a business, if you want to start a business, if you've been thinking about business, because I feel like we're all going to have different perspectives and different takeaways from everything. And I tried to think of mine. So yeah, we're going to do that. But let's start with a card pull. So since this is a 2-year anniversary celebration episode, I'm going to go back to the OG, the original deck, the Colette Baron Reid Enchanted Map deck for this week's card pull. And if you don't know, I received this deck when I did my Reiki Masters course. So I had to do Reiki on someone and the lady loved it so much, she gave me a few gifts. And she happened to know Colette Baron Reid personally when she was like much younger, and she had this deck. So I have this really beautiful deck that I love to pull from. And on that note, I am also starting to teach masters. Yes, good lead there. So a good little lead into, if you are one of my Reiki Level 2 students, I am teaching the Reiki Masters course. It is starting this year. If you have questions about the master's course, please email me, and I will send you kind of the outline of what you should be working towards. But it has to be at least a minimum of 1 year since your level 2 course before we can even consider masters. So if you are not at your 1 year mark already, or if you are past that 1 year mark and you've been thinking about it and you want to know the requirements, send me an email and I will send you everything you need to know. But this deck is from my master's course that I loved so much and cherished. So I pulled card 50, Compass. As long as you orient your compass to true north, the direction of your higher power, you will never be lost. You're entering uncharted territories right now and can expect wonderful new experiences. To stay on the highest path of your destiny, you'll need to keep your compass pointed to true north. Only spirit or a higher power can serve this function. Money, property, prestige, romance, and other material achievements can't help you find your true path. They are simple things you may experience along the journey. Know that spirit is working in your life so that even if you feel lost temporarily, it will be easy to find your way. Have faith and trust for your compass. With spirit as true north, will ensure that you'll never lost, even on a starless night when all seems dark. Ooh. I feel like I always do that little ooh after, but I like this card, Compass. Okay. So I do have a few announcements. So to celebrate the 2 years of the .com, I put all the meeting in the middle replays. They are all on sale for $22 Canadian. It's about $17 American, which is an amazing deal. These workshops are an hour and a half, or 2 hours. You get the recording and you get the workbook for all of them. So I have 7 workshops that are all available for $22. There's how to manifest, how to listen to the universe, how to use a pendulum, crystals and chakras 101, how to set spiritual and personal boundaries. I have one on just manifesting money because that came so highly requested. And then the most popular workshop, it's a 2-hour workshop, how to read your Akashic records. So that is a really, really good one. They are all on for $22. The sale ends June 17th. So you have 3 days to grab these bad boys for $22. I will leave all the links down below in the show notes. And I'm also happy to report that the July Reiki courses are also live. So we have Reiki Level 1, July 9th and 10th. It still has a few spots left. And then there's a Reiki Level 2 at the end of July if you've been waiting for Reiki Level 2. I will put all those links down below in the show notes as well. But let's jump right into the 22 things I've learned in business. I only have 17 on my list right now, plus the answers to the questions, but I'm sure as I start to talk, I will be reminded of the other things I've learned. It's hard to think about it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. These are in no particular order, and I'm going to start with the first one because I just remember this so prominently, and that is to start before you're ready. And this is for everything, really, but especially your business. You need to start before you're ready. And I was talking to a mentee about this a month ago or so, and she said it so perfectly. She's like, I know all I have to do is put the book now button on my website, but I just can't. And so many of us get stuck there, right? We just don't put up the book now button. So start before you're ready, which leans into number 2, which is done is better than perfect. So in the 3 months when I was making my website, I wrote this on a sticky note and I put it on my computer. Done is better than perfect. You could spend eternity working on your website. Every button, every font size, every color, every backdrop, every picture. It is like a black hole. But I had to just get the book now button up. That's all that matters. So start before you're ready. Number 2 is done is better than perfect. You can always go back and improve. And I know there's a lot of questions on websites, and I just want to say this. I made my own website. Yes, it took me 3 months to do, and hours, like probably 80 hours to put my first website up, because I was learning and I was Googling and I was trying to figure out the best way and I was trying to figure out my back end. There's a lot of things you got to figure out yourself when you're a solopreneur. And then That website worked for me very, very well for about a year and a half. So I didn't invest in a new website until very recently. So I just recently launched the mediuminthemiddle.com, where I paid someone, a professional, thousands of dollars to make it professional. But the difference was night and day, of course. But because I've been fully booked, I didn't find the need to invest in my website before that. But then when I wanted to elevate my business, I decided to first invest in branding. So I redid my branding, and then I decided to invest in the website. So you also need cash flow before you are doing these things, which I'm going to talk about in a few more points. You can make your own website. It is totally doable. You can probably learn way faster than me that now. There are tutorials. You can buy courses. You can set up on Wix, on Squarespace, on so many different things. Just start. Pick one and start. I think a big trap that I got into was like trying to find the best. Like, should I go with Wix? Should I go with Squarespace? Should I go with this or that? And then same thing when I was looking up like my back end. Should I go with Setmore? Should I go with Calendly? Should I go with Timely? Should I go with Dubsado? Should I go with... And you're like running around in circles for no reason, just trying to find the best one. Just pick one and begin. I don't want to say spent, I want to say wasted so much time like comparing and making lists and seeing which one would be best for me. And while I am happy that I did that, I just found that it was a reason that I didn't start sooner. Which leads into number 3. It will never be the right time. It will never be the perfect time. It will never all line up. It will never be like the most ideal. And this is for everything. This is for business. This is for launches. This is for fixing things. This is for updating things. This is for going back and redoing something. It will never be the perfect time. You just have to make the time. And I've learned that with, upgrading certain things. It's like, when is the right time? When do you do this? When do you, maybe put a halt on something in order to switch it to something better? There will never be the perfect time. You just have to decide, and then you have to move. Which kind of leads into number 4. Wow. You will never feel 100% prepared or 100% ready. So if you are waiting for that, and this might just be my personal experience, but I was never like, okay, every single thing is ready to go. Single thing is sorted out. I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants a lot, figuring it out along the way, knowing that I can just sort it out, knowing, my strengths and what I can do, but you will never feel 100% ready or prepared. So just do it. Just start. Because if you're waiting for that, you're going to be waiting forever. And that's where I feel like these first 4 points, this is where people get stuck and then they don't move. So this is something that I don't know is good business advice, but this works for how my brain works. I launch things and then I figure it out. So I do it kind of backwards. So normally you should, plan things and have everything done and have everything prepared. But I say yes to things, or I launch things and then I figure it out because I work much better with a deadline. For example, when I launched my Reiki Level 1 course, I didn't want to launch the course until my booklet was done, until I had everything prepared, until I had all the worksheets super ready. And I was like, no. I know myself. I know how this works. I'm going to set the date of the workshop, which can be in a month from now, 2 months from now. It doesn't matter when it is. I set the date. I can sell tickets and spots because what I need to do is be ready by that date. I don't need to be ready by launch date. This goes with presentations as well. I can say yes to presentations or speaking events and then figure out what I'm speaking about or my presentation closer to the date. And now in business, I'm planning months out where I don't need to prepare what I'm talking about in October right now. I can do that in October. So my strategy has always been, if I have a deadline of like, hey, my Reiki Level 1 is tomorrow, my booklet needs to be done today. Maybe I'm up till 2 a.m. finishing it. Maybe I finished it yesterday, but at least I have a deadline that it has to be done. So for this one, I would say it probably can't be blanketed to everybody. Know how you work and know what works for you. But for me, I launch and then I figure it out. Sell the spots and then sort it out. So for meeting in the middles, I pick the topic and then I sort it out because I know it will all flow. Which leads me to number 6, which is I'm a spiritual business. I am an intuitive and I need to use and trust my intuition in business, in everything, but especially in business. So I will give you an example of this. There are so many things that I did or launched or thought was a good idea, but my intuition was like, nope, don't do that. I sway tested it. No, I knew it wasn't right. I knew something was wrong. And it always led to, I don't even want to say failures because it was always a lesson, but I'll give you an example. Sometimes I've launched Reiki dates, trying to get Reiki dates out or whatever it is, like not really thinking. And then like no one will book that Reiki date and I'll have to move it. And it's just like you knew no one was going to book that Reiki date. And now you're literally just having to do a bunch more work for no reason. This happened with The Awakening, which was a program that I launched last year where everybody was asking me for one-on-one mentorship. And I was like, no, I don't have the capacity to do this yet. No, I'm going to do group mentorship. And my guides were like, nope. And I did all this work and all this planning and I launched and it was just like everything was pointing to a no. Everything was pointing to like cancel this. This is a bad idea. Again, like signups weren't very fast. It was just all of these things where I was like, okay, fine, no. And then I'll go back on something. So I found in all the experiences where I've had to go back on something, it's because I didn't listen to my intuition the first time. Because I'm in a spiritual business and I'm an intuitive and I can listen to it. It doesn't have to make business sense, but in my mind, it's shown me enough time to just listen. So sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I want to do this on this date. And if I sway test a no, I find another date and I don't ask questions anymore. So we're moving into number 7, which is something I've learned only recently in business, which is to plan ahead. I've always worked as someone who puts out the fires. And I've finally realized that life can be far less chaotic if you're not just putting out fires and you're planning ahead. So I'll keep using Reiki trainings. I used to not plan the next Reiki training until, I had one that was sold out and like a wait list of 10 people for the next one. That's not good business, but I thought it was. I'm like, I have a wait list. But I was like, well, what if I email these 10 people and then they can't make the date or they're not available? And that started to happen. So I was like, I want it when someone goes on the website, there's a Reiki training available. So you need to plan ahead. Say that I've only learned this in the past 6 months is to stop putting out fires and plan ahead. And it's really made my day-to-day work seem less hectic. I feel less overwhelmed. I feel less busy because I can look into the future and know what I need to do. But that also comes with experience, right? Like I know when June Reiki trainings are full, I need July Reiki trainings. But you know what I could also do is pick all my training dates for May, June, and July, so I already have them lined up. I just launch when they're ready to go. So just things like that you can do for yourself where I'm like, this year I took 2 weeks off in January and I took 2 weeks to plan out my year. Okay, what did I do last year, July? What am I going to do this year, July? What holidays did I take last year? What holidays am I going to take this year? What courses did I do last year? What am I going to do this year? So I have this like blueprint that I'm working with. So it helps me because I've already picked all my training dates. I already know when I'm going to be off. And that kind of leads into number 8, which is remember to work on your business, not just in your business. And I've been saying this to myself a lot recently because it's so hard as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, when you are the only one. It is so difficult to set time aside to work on your business where you don't see the direct return, your ROI, and not just in your business. And I listen to a lot of podcasts about this to help me out, but it's that like CEO mindset. I don't need to be an employee. I need to be the CEO of my business. So if I'm not working on my business and just in my business, that I'm going to never grow, I'm never going to expand, I'm never going to improve, all of these things. So a lot of these like cliche terms really are true, but once they like click in your mind, it's really amazing what can happen. So this was interesting because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a multi-million-dollar business, and I was asking him about scaling and all of these things. We were just having this amazing business conversation. And he said this sentence to me: remember to work on your business, not just in your business. And I was like, well, like, I know that. I know that. Like, I've heard it before, but can you just explain to me how you scaled like that? And he said, Steph, I didn't start making the money I'm making now until I went from 20 employees to 100. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah. Anything I didn't need to do directly, I hired someone. He's like, and when you start to have that mindset of anything you do not directly need to be doing, you hire someone, he's like, it gives you way more time to work on your business. I have more time to expand. I have more time to advertise. I have more time to network. I have more time to do all the things only I can do. And that's where I am right now. I feel like I'm stuck where I need to hire in order to grow, but it is a very scary thing to do. So really, really good conversation to have. So when he said that to me, he was like, I can literally see your wheels turning. And I was like, they are, because just like that perception change or twist is like, holy cow, you're so right. And I can see this in my business now, whereas sometimes you can't see it. You don't know what you don't know. So going into number 9 is, I've said this before and I'll say it again, your biggest business supporters are going to be complete strangers. They're going to be people that don't know you, are going to be your biggest hype people. And I've had a lot of conversations about why I think this is, but it kind of leads into number 10, which is don't expect much from your friends or family. People who don't have businesses really don't understand. And I'm always saying, like, I don't need you to buy anything from my business, but like my post, comment, that's all. And there's like certain things that you will maybe have expectations for of people, and the people that you know are unfortunately not going to be your biggest supporters. It's going to be complete strangers. And I've seen this across the board with friends that have businesses. We've all had the same experience, and it just boils down to a lot of reasons, I think, but people don't understand what it's like to have a business. So yeah, just know that your biggest supporters are going to be your complete strangers, which blows my mind still to this day. Even with my 2-year launch, the amount of support I got from complete strangers versus people that I knew was mind-blowingly different. So going into number 11, again, something that I've recently learned and really try to uphold is having some sense of a working day. Have some sense of your start time and, more importantly, your end time. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to have, the hustle times, the times when you are working a lot, the times when you do need to stay up till midnight. If you can give yourself more structure, you're the only person giving you structure. So it's really important that you give yourself that. And I'm just learning this now that I take a day off a week. Just started a month ago. So number 12 is know that you're going to be constantly working on your business and that it never, ever, ever stops. And like I say this, but people really don't understand. If anything goes wrong, I am the person. If there's a button not working on a website, on an email, if something's not working on my booking system, if I need to do my accounting, my back end, paying the bills, getting invoices, getting things set up, setting up the back ends for things, prepping emails, everything is on me. So it never ends. But that's why 11 is important. You have to decide when you're done for the day. You have to decide when you're starting and ending, because for the first year and a half, I got trapped into like sitting at my desk until midnight. Like saying no to so many things because I could literally work on my business forever. There was always something to do. There was always something to improve. There's always something to plan for in the future. There's always something I could be doing that I'm not. But you have to realize that you need some type of boundaries. And I don't even want to say balance because I don't think balance exists. I just think you need boundaries of like what you do and what you don't do. And this leads into 13, which is another cliche. You quit the 9 to 5 to work 24/7. This is so true. You do not get to shut your brain off, ever. There is never a time that I have experienced that I'm not thinking about my business. Or, even when I went away to Mexico for a week and I was like, I'm not working, I still need to be relevant for that week. I still need to show up online. I still need to do things. I still need to prep for things. I was still thinking of things I could do when I come back. I was still setting myself up. I was still writing out ideas of reels and emails and whatever you think, but it never shuts off. And I think sometimes I get really jealous that some people get to leave work and then they don't think about work until they go back into work the next day, or they don't have anything to do for their work until they go back in the next day. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. And then I think no, this is so much better. And then number 14, and I don't know if this is just because I'm still a small new business, but I feel like it's always feeling inconsistent and it's always scary. And I don't know if that ever goes away. I don't know if it gets easier. I don't know if it gets better. I will report back in 10 years, but I'm always like, oh my God, is anyone going to book tomorrow? Is anyone going to buy this training? I still feel that way. So I don't know if that ever goes away. 15. You are you, and you are the only person in your business. So there's next to zero praise, acknowledgement. There's no boss telling you good job. There's no one giving you a raise. There's no colleagues. So you have to really make sure that you reward yourself and celebrate yourself. This is something I feel like I've been good at from the start, is that I will celebrate big wins. I will celebrate big launches. I will celebrate anything and everything. Celebrate yourself, or a lot of things that you do will go unnoticed. So it's really important that, because you are the business, you are the employees, you are everything, you have to do every role. And this is also about acknowledging yourself, holding yourself accountable, all those fun things. So number 16 is promote yourself. Get good at talking about your offer, your business. Don't downplay your business. Talk about it. Open your mouth, have a sentence to say, and get the word out there. I used to be so uncomfortable talking about my podcast, my business, what I do, what I offer. Now I hold space. I tell you what I do. I take the time to describe it. I give you an example. I hand you a card. You are your number one advertiser, so act like it. That's also the only free advertising that you get. So talk about yourself and just get more and more comfortable with it, because no one's going to know about your offer unless you talk about it. Okay, and the last thing on my list before I jump into the questions, which are still going to be things I learned in business, but I've learned that the more you hype things up pre-launch, the more success I've had with the launch. So a big thing that I notice is that people don't start talking about their offer, their opening, their course, whatever, until it's available. And something that I've found a lot of success with is, being like, Reiki trainings are launching on Wednesday. Get ready. The dates are coming on Wednesday. You really have to talk about it a lot, because you feel annoying that you're repeating things, but on the internet, things get lost and there's so many things going on for people to look at. You have to repeat things all the time. So hype things up. Don't just launch something like a secret. Talk about it. Talk about it a lot, because it really, really creates the hype. And big companies are good at this, right? Even I'm thinking about Skin by Kim. That's all I'm seeing online, and I don't even think it's launched yet, but it's everywhere. So when it comes to launch, there's going to be a lot of demand for it. So you need to do this personally with, I find, everything. Merch is launching, hype it up for weeks before. You want to set that launch date, set that time date, give people somewhere to be at a certain time. Call to actions are very, very, very important. And actually, now that I'm on number 17, number 18, I would say is, depending on what your business is, but you need to show your face. This was a hard realization when I first launched Instagram, and I never posted a photo of my face. And when I did, they were the ones that got the most engagements, the most likes, the most everything. And I was like, oh no, I have to show my face. And the more comfortable you get with talking into your phone and your camera and sharing your business and talking about it and everything I've listed, the easier it gets, and you have to be comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable talking about your offer, then what are you doing in business? What are you doing? And I actually have a good mentee story for this. So I had a mentee sign up last round, and her whole intention was to start a Reiki business. So for the first week, I gave her a bunch of things that I wanted her to do, things to practice on. And then the second week, she came back and she didn't have much luck with a lot of things. And we were trying to find where she would get clients, and we were trying to set things up. And I could really tell that her throat was blocked. And I was like, okay, I need you to start saying that, like, you do Reiki, you're a Reiki practitioner. I need you to say these things in the shower out loud. I was like, when you're at yoga, you can talk to people about it. You can ask people about it. She's like, I just don't feel comfortable asking anybody. Like, I don't want to talk to people at yoga. Like, what if that's weird? I'm like, it's not weird. And she was like really having a hard time with it. And on the third call, she was like, Steph, I realized that I don't want this business. And she's like, I wanted it for all the wrong reasons. I didn't know this was what it was involved, and I don't want this anymore. And it was amazing. And as I was so proud of her for, number one, coming to that realization that she actually didn't want to do this, but also not spinning her wheels somewhere that she wasn't comfortable with. So that doesn't mean that you're not having a business now. It just means that if you can't even say that you do Reiki to anyone, your best friends, a stranger, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to have a business if you're not going to talk about it. So a few business questions that I got to end off this episode is how to start. And I wish I had, something more to say here, but my answer is just start. Put up the book now button. That's all you need. You need a book now button. You need a landing page. You need a book now button. You need a link in bio. That's your starting. That's how you start. Link in bio. You need a landing page. You need a book now button. You need a booking system. That's your first step. Figure everything else out afterwards, but you need people in the door. And clientele is, you build it slowly. So the quicker you start, the quicker you can start building your audience and building the people to come to you. It's going to be one person a week, then 2 people a week, then 3. So start. You're not having like this huge flood right at the beginning of people ready to go. So you're building, just start. How to start? Start now. Put up the book now button. Pause this episode. Go put up your book now button. It's going to take you less than 5 minutes. Come back and keep listening. Okay, I didn't expect the podcast to be this long. I might save one of these answers for a whole podcast episode. So someone asked the top 5 things to do before you open your business. I'm going to do that as a whole podcast. So I'm going to skip that one and then finish here with how to create your website. So I kind of talked about this earlier, and I started mine with Wix. I would say find the platform that's easiest for you to use, however your brain works. You don't need to pay someone, but I've also had, again, some mentees who are like, nope, I just want to invest the money right away. I would rather someone else do it. I would rather this just be done. It depends how much money you have. It depends where you want to start. It depends where you want to put your money in, but you can do it to yourself. You need a book now button to start in a landing page and then build from there. And then I suggest to just upgrade it when your business has cash flow. So build something simple yourself that will work for now. When it stops working, or when you need to grow, or when you have money to change it, then change it. But I started on Wix, and I used a template, and I had an About Me page, and I had a Reiki page, and an Akashic record page. But yeah, do it yourself. It takes time, or hire someone if you have the money. It just depends. But find a system that makes sense to your brain. That's the thing that I would say, because we're all going to create and learn differently, and you just need to find something that works for you. Okay, so those are all my business tips. We didn't really get to 22, but kind of 18, 19, 20. We're at 20-ish. So I'm sure there was a few extra in there that I didn't give a number to, and I'm sure I could talk about this forever, but I don't want this podcast to be too long. So that's my recap of things that I've learned in 2 years of business. I'm still going to learn so much more as we continue to grow over the next many, many years to come. So I hope that was helpful. If you have a business, if you want to start a business, if you've been thinking about a business, it's always nice to hear what other people kind of go through and struggle with and overcome. If you have been listening to the podcast for a while and you haven't left a review, I would love and appreciate a review. It really helps me out in the podcast world and it helps me grow. All the things that I mentioned earlier, to book a Reiki session, to buy a meeting in the middle that is on sale for $22 until June 17th. I will leave all those links down below in the show notes. If you want to book an appointment with me, I offer Akashic Records, PSYCH-K, and distance Reiki, and in-person Reiki in Banff, Alberta. All those links are down below in the show notes. You got it. All right, Middlers. Next week, I have the recap with Bree on mediums in the mountains. It's going to be such a fun episode. So that is coming for you then. But until next Wednesday, when I see you in your ears, I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, Middlers.